When we think crystals, this is what we often think of, right? Sugar crystals, ice crystals, those little annoying bits of honey that always crystallize at the bottom of a container. Those are all small, sparkly sorts of things you wouldn't find out of place on a piece of jewelry. Or, well, so much for small and sparkly. This item here, human being off to the side for scale, is a silicon bowl, or one giant single crystal of silicon. That's right, metals and metalloids can be considered crystals, and the way they're processed, like that silicon behemoth over there, affects how they're used in the real world. But how exactly do you process these things, and how do you grow these crystals? Well, it starts with nucleation and then growth. Nucleation is the process of forming a solid nucleus with the critical size it needs to stay stable and not break apart back into the liquid. There are two kinds of nucleation, heterogeneous and homogeneous. Heterogeneous nucleation is when a nucleus forms off a surface already present, an impurity like dirt, or a surface like the side of a container. These surface molecules are missing a layer of bonds above to fulfill all their available bonds with. To the universe, this extra energy is as concerning as a toddler hopped up on sugar running around a tray of extremely breakable dishes. It won't end well. So you gotta calm the toddler down by giving them something to do, and one way to calm the energy down for a surface is by putting the energy into bonds. Thus, the bonds required for a nucleus to form and not fall back apart are more easily made, because the universe encourages this. But what about when you don't have surface molecules and surface energy to help the nucleation along? Well, that's the case of a homogeneous nucleation, in which nuclei are made to form within the bulk of a material, not at the surface. Since there's no surface energy to help the nucleation along, energy has to come from somewhere else, right? Well, it does, from supercooling, a drop in temperature so large that this thermal driving force gives nucleation energy. After nucleation comes growth, the formation of new nuclei in the new phase that eventually completely overtake the old phase, in this case, the liquid. While nucleation is dependent on a change in temperature, growth is dependent on temperature alone. This is because growth happens through diffusion, the transportation of particles. With increased temperature comes more thermal energy, which can be converted into kinetic energy to move the particles around further and further. So what have we realized so far? Fluctuations in temperature, along with the availability of different surfaces, are part of why we get such different looking crystals with different properties. This is how we can get a giant single crystal of silicon, by growing the crystal so slowly that there's a smooth temperature gradient along its length, meaning there's a smooth change in temperature. Thus, we get a smooth surface instead of an irregular, banded surface that we might get if we had sudden jumps in temperature. Meanwhile, we don't get huge single crystals of sugar in our rock candy because the multiple grains of sugar we prep our rock candy with give it multiple surfaces to nucleate off of, meaning the different nuclei will grow to eventually run into each other and form boundaries. Oh well, at least from a taste point of view, rock candy is still perfect, right? Thanks for watching!